All right, so today is going to be all about tips and tricks for using Zoom. Hopefully you have Zoom up and ready in front of you with the controls because we're just going to be moving our way around the controls. I'm going to have you guys try things as we go. My name is Nicole Carter. I'm a part of the digital curriculum crew. I have background in secondary language arts and have been with Beaverton School District now for 6 years, I think six. And we're just excited to be able to provide tools for you, and hopefully this is going to be helpful and give us feedback. We've got a feedback eval form at the end. We will be mining that for pre-service and beyond to figure out what it is you guys need to be successful and feel comfortable. We're here to support you. So that evaluation is really, really important for us as we move forward to try and provide you PD that matters, right? So today's session is really going to be focusing in on quite a few of our kind of buckets of CDL. So while it's true Zoom is super helpful for us to connect, please remember that you always can use email, use messages through Seesaw, through Canvas. But this is one way that we can obviously connect and do face-to-face instruction, which is going to be incredibly important as these are students that we haven't met face-to-face yet. But it also is a part of engaging, especially if we use this tool really, really well. Because I think sometimes just logging in and turning your video off, the kids have gotten really good at that. So how do we keep it flowing? How do we keep it moving? How do we engage them? It's interesting because I know if you've been hearing at all in the teacher sphere about Bitmoji classrooms, I have been kind of reticent about them because it's an avatar and not your real face. However, my middle school child saw a Bitmoji classroom that I had been working on for tomorrow's session, and she thought it was so cool. So I don't know if any of you have students at home, show them a Bitmoji classroom and just get their feedback, because I've been under the impression that we really wanted your face there, but my child thought it was really cool. So anywho, how can we engage? And a part of that engagement piece is moving with Zoom, providing them with fun, enticing things to look at, that sort of thing. Also, thinking about accessibility. Yesterday's session on Google Slides, we had someone in the comments share out that some of the fonts we are using when our families at home are using translation, like maybe their Google at home is set up to, instead of English, Spanish or something, the automatic translation through Google, some of our fonts that we are using are not working through translation. That was an aha moment for me. So as we think about what we're displaying on the screen, what we're also sending home, that information design really matters. And so how are we delivering that content so it's accessible for our students? But then also too, how are we providing this like check-in and feedback response? This is where breakout rooms within Zoom become incredibly helpful, as we've been doing sessions on making our own videos, making instructional videos, allowing kids to have access to different tasks while we're also engaging with maybe a small group on the side. All of those pieces can become pretty important, and Zoom can help us kind of facilitate that. So lots of things for us to kind of talk about here as we move forward. I kind of already mentioned some of those equity lens questions. I think it's important for us to constantly be thinking about that accessibility piece. And yeah, it comes up naturally, I think. So if you guys have any tips or tricks that you have found, let us know. You know, we have been still trying to go back and forth. We don't know necessarily what our schedules are going to be looking like in the fall. And you know, at one point we were being told, right, to record all of our Zoom sessions with students' faces potentially in there. We're still working on what that all looks like. So as those things are updated, we'll have, you know, PDFs and stuff for you guys to know the workflow and everything. But know that that equity lens piece is kind of important. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to be starting with moving around the horn, basically. So in the beginning of today's session, someone was talking about connecting AirPods through Zoom and having some difficulties with that. And I myself have had difficulties with my AirPods as well, specifically with the computer that I'm with right now, because it has different ports and I can't use anything other than a Bluetooth device with it, actually. So making sure that those kinds of connections are happening can be kind of critical. Within your mute button, there's a drop down arrow. If everyone want to go ahead and find your mute button, don't unmute yourself necessarily, but do you see that drop down arrow that's right there? So if you drop that arrow down, you can see that you can select the microphone and the speaker for which you're going to be listening to Zoom. So if you have Bluetooth connected something, but it's not quite working through Zoom, one thing that I always do is I try to connect my Bluetooth before I even open Zoom. And if I'm having troubles with that, honestly, restart my computer. I restarted my computer today before I came into today's session. I also kind of closed out any extra tabs. I am known to have a ton of tabs open on my computer at any one time. It's part of my work process. When I'm done, I close the tab out and I know I can move on, right? So before I get onto Zoom, just because I know that there's a lot of pieces that are pulling from my internet, I try to close down as many applications and tabs as possible. And if possible, if I'm noticing that my laptop is making a whirring fan sound, I will restart it, to be perfectly honest. So I'll restart my Zoom. I will connect my Bluetooth. And honestly, I am a person that listens to music all the time. So one thing that I've noticed is that if there's not a sound coming from the computer into my Bluetooth, sometimes the Bluetooth just registers that there's no sound and it turns off. So I will oftentimes open up like Spotify, for example, and start playing some music just so that I can tell that my AirPods are connected or my Bluetooth is connected. And then I will go into Zoom, honestly. But right with that drop down arrow, you have access to make sure that your speaker and your microphone is connected. Additionally, next to that, with your stop video camera, you have the ability to change your video settings at any time when you hit that drop down menu. And I would just say, you know, as we kind of talk about a lot of things today, just like we don't know a lot of things within Zoom, and so until we start touching buttons and playing around, our students are exactly the same way. So I know in one of the sessions we had yesterday, a teacher said, "Hey, this is really great. Is there going to be a tutorial video?" Yes, there could be a tutorial video, but I think that there's more power in you as the teacher during instruction, give some direct instruction to the kids and have them go into these different applications within Zoom and try it with you instead of just watching a video. There's nothing quite like being able to press the buttons and try things at the same time. So I shared with Carrie. Carrie's on the phone with me right now, or on the call with me manning the chat, but I shared with her a video because I've been doing some research for our K through 2 teachers. They really want some help identifying what it looks like with CDL with our littles. And I was watching this gentleman in Texas do his first day with kindergarten on Monday. And it just about broke your heart because this is not the same, right? It's not the same as an in-class assignment. But he was doing some really amazing things in terms of, "Hi, everyone. This card, when I hold this card up, it shows that I want your microphones turned off. And then when I hold this card, it means I want your microphones turned on so you can answer me." So he had these like cards that he was using to automatically, right away, within the first 10 minutes of class, start teaching the kids some of his expectations while they were in Zoom. I thought the flashcards were a really great idea. So teaching the kids how to do these things, I think, is going to be really important. And you might also think, just like in the classroom, where we have that kind of slow progression of skills, build up on things so that the kids get more and more comfortable, and we can gradually release some of the like controls that we have in Zoom so that they can actually participate more while they're in the class. One thing to think of, just like I said before, where I said I closed down my computer, I restarted, I shut down all my tabs. Another thing to think about is to really get the kids to either in your settings have everybody's videos turned off as they enter the room, or teach them when to turn on and off their video feed. I know for us as teachers, seeing just lots of black squares with students' names can be actually downright depressing, right? We really feed off of that energy from our students. So teaching them when to turn their video feed on and off so that you can get facial recognition or thumbs up or something like that from them, I think is going to be really powerful. But also, the video is competing and pulling data from the internet stream. So if you have students that do not have good quality internet at home, then having them turn their videos off unless you specifically need them, really is going to help them with whatever else you're sharing and doing online. It's going to help with lag on their end. So that's actually a pretty critical tool that we need to be paying attention to. Excuse me. The other thing, and I'm going to talk about breakout rooms probably, I think, tomorrow when we get into the advanced session, but there is a key piece with having videos off. I know this sounds weird, but having the videos off while they're in breakout rooms, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, that lag piece is incredibly important. So if you are ever listening on any of our Zoom PDs and you're noticing your audio cutting out at all, or the videos are shorting out or something, try turning your video feed off, and that might help increase your internet. Okay, before I move on, Carrie, I see that there's a lot of stuff coming through on the chat. Is there anything that I need to address?
I think we're good. I think we've answered it.
Okay.
It was how to do the split screen.
Oh, the split screen, like the depressing the green, or just rearranging or changing?
I think we were directing to decompress the green so they could see you as well as be playing in Zoom.
Okay, and everybody feels comfortable with that? I honestly move things around a lot, and most of the time when I'm creating and working on my computer and not in a Zoom class, I use full screen windows because I don't like sometimes where some of my toolbars and things have been minimized and I can't find the different things that I need. But when I'm in Zoom, I really utilize lots of minimized windows. That way I can still see the faces in Zoom. I can see my chat window in Zoom. I can see the screen that things are sharing. Another piece too with that is that I have two screens going right now, and I know that that's a lot, and I wish, we've been talking a lot as a team. What does a teacher kit look like? How does it best help teachers at home? I've been seeing a lot of people as they've started up this week sharing what their at home classroom looks like, and it is helpful when you have more than one screen. That's why I think sometimes having access to even a teacher iPad or your phone or something can definitely help you, especially when we start talking about breakout rooms. But utilizing minimized screens, I think, will really help you in this instance, so that you can see lots of things happening at once. Okay, the next button I want us to all press and check on is the security button that's down at the bottom next to video. So when you open that up, I think that that's really important because it allows you at any time to turn different things on and off, especially when you think about what you have in settings and what is marked in settings. But if you allow your students the access to the chat box and then someone starts to misuse that feature, you can turn access to the chat box off right there from the security section. Okay, so I think that that's really important to know. I also like the idea of allowing students to rename themselves. Now, of course, you'd have to teach them how to do that. But if you allow them access to that, you could maybe use that as an engagement tool at any time. So I think I might have it later on in the presentation, but since I'm talking about it, I'll go ahead and have you guys try it. So what I want you to do is go ahead and go and click on your image on the screen. And in fact, I'm going to share. Now, I'm about to share my screen that shows some of you. So if you do not want your face to be on the recording, you might want to turn your video off right now. But it's one of the only ways that I can share with you what it is that I'm actually doing. So.
And Nicole, you can only see the security button when you are the host, correct?
Oh, yes, that could be. If they aren't seeing the security button, then that could be. That is actually really good. I didn't know that. See, it's one of those things where when I'm jumping on, yesterday my daughter was making fun of me because I actually had her Chromebook signed into a Zoom and I had my iPad signed into a Zoom just so that I could have more than one person in the Zoom so I could play around with it. So yeah, if you don't see the security button, then that's probably something you only see when you are the host. Okay, so if you don't want yourself to be seen right now, can you see my screen moving around a little bit? Yes, good. Thank you, everyone that's participating with thumbs up. I appreciate that. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on your image. And there should be, Chris likes to call them jelly beans, but the 3 dots, click on those and then go down to the rename. Now, one of the things that I've seen with this is when I'm in meetings where they want us to add our pronouns, her, hers, and her, and her, hers, she, her, hers. There we go. You can rename yourself at any time here. So maybe it might be something like, hey guys, I want you to put your name and maybe your favorite animal at the end. Let's try that. So I'm going to put Nicole. So again, just something that you guys have access to. And it could be a tool. Love it. I see that Molly put an owl. Awesome. Okay. All right. So I'm going to switch back over. So hopefully everyone has their chat window and the participation window opened up. If you do not, can you go ahead and tap both of those for me? And when you open those up, you should be able to see, now in my settings, I have some of the more advanced options, but can everyone go ahead and find the button that says go slower and press that for me? Okay. Now, how about if you click on the jelly beans where it says the more button, and can you find the coffee cup? So this is yet again another tool where we could have our students tell us how they're feeling. How are you feeling with what we're doing right now? Who needs a break? Who would like me to slow down? Is everyone okay? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Now, in my window, right, I can see everyone's responses show up next to their microphone button where everyone's audio is off. Now, if you haven't gone into the settings and turned on these features, the students might only have a thumbs up and a clap as their reactions.
Nicole, do you mind going back and showing how you got to that again through the participant window? How you access the participant window?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, just go ahead and touch the bottom track, and then right here, you're going to see, I mean, you're going to see a ton of names right here probably, because right now we have 100 people in the room. But then any of these buttons here is what I was asking you to touch on. Okay, so then down in the chat, and so it pops up for us, especially with the raised hand button. It pops up for me as a little notification window. So these other ones that I had you press, it just shows up in my participation screen. Whereas the raised hand that you guys are doing, that's actually showing up as like a pop-out window for me. So it's even more pronounced that someone is raising their hand to ask a question. I think anytime we use students' names, like if we direct teach students that we want their mic off unless we're asking them a specific question, but then when they want to ask the question, they use that raised hand feature. And then until I say their name, like I see Carol just raised her hand. So then I would say, Carol, I see that you raised your hand. You want to ask the question? Go ahead and unmic yourself. And then Carol can unmic and ask her questions. But this is part of the protocol, but the kids need to be taught how to do all of these buttons because otherwise they're just signing in and watching the screen as if it's like a YouTube video, right? So all of these different features are things that we can work into how we're instructing the kids. My child has been signing up and taking some online classes over the summer just to kind of for me to get her involved in things. And she took a cooking class that was live through Zoom, and her teacher did a fantastic job with just this. It was the first time she met any of the kids. It was an hour and a half long, and within the first 10 minutes, she taught the kids that protocol, and they were off and running, especially in a noisy kitchen when they were all making pizza actually. So I know it works, and we can do it really quickly with the kids, and it will help with your kind of protocols. Okay, any other thoughts, Carrie, before we move on?
There are just people wondering who don't have access to those specific buttons or having trouble finding them, and wondering the difference between the basic account and our district account.
Yes, so you guys want to open up another tab and log into your Zoom settings, or log into Zoom, and then we'll go into the settings for you. To let you know, I just paused my share screen because I knew as soon as I opened up my settings, it was going to open straight into my profile. And that's not necessarily something I don't think that we should be sharing because it does show like our account number. It also shows some of our, just some of our like meeting information that a kid could take, you know? So I'm just gonna stop sharing. I hit the pause button, which is a screen, part of my kind of floating screens as I'm sharing up at the top. And now I'm just hitting resume share. Now it's hard for you guys to see this right now, but when I'm sharing my screen, there is actually a green outline around the thing that you guys are seeing. And so when I hit pause, it actually put like a reddish orange box all the way around that. So I knew you weren't seeing what I was seeing. So I'm actually going to go into my settings, and these are called reactions. So I think actually what I'm going to do is search. Okay. So I use this tool a lot, and I don't know if people know about it. So I did a Command F on my keyboard, and that pulls up a search function, so I can search through the website for the word that I'm looking for. I mean, these settings are huge, right? So I was looking for meeting reactions, and I just typed in the word reaction, and it took me down to the meeting basics section. So you can either try that Command F and then type reaction, or scroll down midway to the meeting basics section. And then just make sure you have this turned on. And then nonverbal feedback is the other one that I have turned on. So those are the icons that you were pressing before, the go faster, go slower, I need a break, that sort of thing. Right above this window, it gives me a tally. So like it was saying I had 4 people that clicked the yes button, and I had 27 people that said go slower, and I had, you know, 4 more people that clicked the coffee button. And then I pressed this clear all and cleared all of your nonverbal responses to me. So that's something I can use multiple times throughout a Zoom session. But then it also shows up here where this box is, right next to the microphone, shows how you all voted. But once you vote, and then you vote again. So let's say you clicked the yes button, but then you're trying things out and you clicked the go faster, it switches from the yes to the go faster. I think it still counts in my tally, but it automatically shows the last button you pressed right here. I'm sorry, guys. Thanks, Carrie, for pointing that out. This was where I was showing you your mute all and unmute options. And then your more button here actually allows you to see a lot of that. Let's see if I have a close up of that, because I feel like I do. Oh, this is another feature I find to be kind of fun, because sometimes I think when I'm teaching in different windows that when I automatically open up participation in chat, it attaches itself to the Brady Bunch window that we were just talking about. But you can actually click that drop down arrow and do a pop-out chat, so that you can move that chat window around so that it's easier for you to see when kids are maybe asking questions. And you can close it out when you don't need it. Okay. You also can change your chat options, especially when you're the host. You might not be able to see it right now because you're not the host, but when you are the host, you can allow students to change, especially when you're in your settings and you set it up so that students, I actually would think, I have it set up so that you guys can chat with me publicly or privately, but with students, I probably would turn that off in the settings. Let's go back to settings, as you guys can see this, right? So I have the private chat turned on for you guys, but I think I would make sure that that was turned off probably with a class. But you can also change that at any time when you're hosting if there's a reason for it. Okay, so in terms of the share screen, I'm coming back towards the end. I need to watch my time. I'm coming back to the end to talk specifically about the share screen part. It's a large section, so I will be coming back, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the pollings, because you now do have access to the pollings. It's a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be, so I wanted to make sure to talk to you guys about it. So it's next to your share screen button. You see it when you're the host. You can definitely play back and watch this video later, or I would really suggest with your team or department, do a little Zoom play around session where you can go in and try a lot of these things together, because again, it's really, you can definitely open up just a private Zoom where you're just opening the Zoom and you're playing around and touching things. But when you have multiple people within the Zoom, it's there's a lot more things that become available to you for you to try out. So once you hit the poll, then it's going to launch this little window right here. And what's interesting about this little window is that it actually pulls up another tab in your browser, to start making the poll question. So it doesn't happen right here in Zoom, but you know what? You can also go in and do polls ahead of time when you schedule a meeting. And some of your meeting schedules too. Okay, so once I've created a meeting, down here at the bottom, I have a section for where I can actually create and add polling questions. So you can do it ahead of time. If you know what content you're going to cover, you can go in and start a poll ahead of time. So I did that with you guys so that you guys could see what it looks like. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, so it launched that window for me. I did create a poll for you already ahead of time. And so I get this screen. So I'm going to share the results. So it tells me, it gives me this little green bar at the top. It tells me how long I've told you guys that I've stopped it. And now I'm sharing the results with you. So that's actually kind of shocking. 66% of you have a teacher iPad. Interesting. So you can ask it to be anonymous. You can ask it to pull their questions if that's important to your formative data. And then you can add multiple questions, like I said, or save it. Some of your meeting that you set up in Zoom can be a template. So if there's questions that you're asking or a poll that you're asking, it belongs to that one Zoom. So you'd have to recreate it for another Zoom window. But it could be a template. Maybe you have a first day template that has a poll that you want the kids to have access to. You can make that as a template and just reuse it a couple of times. Okay, so I'm kind of noticing we do have a couple of people maybe pressing the annotate button, because I do have that on for you guys. So if you're at all pressing buttons, awesome. But I think, again, what I was getting excited about the annotation tools until I realized that we have access, but the kids don't have access. So in my settings, I do have the annotation tools turned on for you guys. That definitely means that you can all potentially write all over my screen at any time. And then I can obviously clear it, or I can turn the annotation tools off at any time as well. Of the recording button and the closed caption button. So recording, obviously, I think it's important that we remind the students anytime that we're recording. I'm looking at my time right now too. I might have to zoom through some of this. The closed captioning option is kind of interesting. If you're not seeing that on your screen, then that might only appear when you're in the host section. But the closed captioning allows you to potentially have, or to have a teacher's aide type out everything that's being said while you're talking, if you do have a student that needs access to those closed caption pieces. But it's something where either you type or you can assign someone else to type to grab those closed caption pieces. It's not an automatic feature like some other apps automatically have. So we are going to talk about breakouts in tomorrow's sections. We talked about reactions is just slightly different. It's either, if you want to press it down below, the reactions just allow you to give a thumbs up, which shows on your Brady Bunch face, or what is the other one? What is the other reaction? Because my controls for that are gone. It's like a thumbs up. Go ahead and press it, you guys. Yeah, hand clapping. Thank you. So yeah, it's a thumbs up or a hand clap. So that's another tool you can use, obviously. Ask the kids, call and response kind of thing. Okay, and then I wanted to get to this last part. So that's the closed caption. I don't know why that feels like it's out of order, but closed caption is either I'm going to type the closed caption or I'm going to assign someone else to type the closed caption. And then talked about that part. Okay, so then the other piece I wanted us to play around with is this speaker view option and full screen option. So the speaker view allows whoever is currently talking, or you can also pin certain people as well. So just toggle through some of those different options, whether it's the gallery view or the speaker view. And then right next to that, you have a full screen and an exit full screen. And honestly, I would love to be able to tell you, sometimes when people go to share screen, this gallery view completely disappears for me. Hands up if anyone else has that happen, or thumbs up. Let's do a reaction thumbs up. Does your Zoom completely disappear for you sometimes when someone goes to share screen? Yeah. And honestly, I would love to tell you that I have like a superior way of trying to find it back, but I honestly don't. Sometimes I use the quick find feature. Sometimes your trackpad is very similar to your phone where it depends on how many fingers you are using. So for instance, if I use 3 fingers and flick up on my trackpad, then I can see all of the windows that are currently open, and I can try and see if I can find my Zoom window. And then 3 fingers swiping down on the trackpad will bring my windows back up. I don't know if you want to try that or not. Sometimes when we're in the specific zone and everything's set up for Zoom, we don't like to get out of it, and I can understand that. But I wanted to say that that can sometimes change how you're viewing your students, and what they're doing is that speaker view, and just knowing that it's there. And then also you can click on anyone's image on the screen when you're the host, and you can remove them from the room if they're doing something inappropriate. You also can set up a straight chat with them. You can also send them a message to ask to start their video so you can see what they're doing. So again, these are all pieces that you have on your host end when you actually click on their face in that kind of gallery view. Into Zoom, I'm going into my account, and then I'm going all the way down to settings. Okay, now I know a lot of people have asked about the waiting room that we have when we have and that's what I'm going to talk about next, I promise. I do not, we do have access to the waiting room now when we get the new pro version or whatever. I actually don't use the waiting room. I just use a slide. My very first slide in my slide deck is my quote unquote waiting room. And that gives me a little bit more control, I feel like, instead of having people, the waiting room through Zoom, you have to upload just a static image. And I would prefer to have like my countdown timer. I prefer to share music. I like the music happening. And so I don't have my waiting room turned on. Okay, the other thing I wanted to say, you could have the start meetings with host video on. I usually start my Zooms like 10 minutes before go time. And like I said, I have my waiting room on, and I like to start with music. I don't need my video on for that. And so I don't actually like to start with my video on. So I have that turned off. So you need to make that decision. I actually do have participants' video turned off when we first enter the room. So that means I see like your static image or your name. Again, that's your choice. I think it might give our kids maybe a little bit more confidence opening up and not necessarily having their environment on blast right away. But again, I think that is all up to your expectations. Sound notifications, I think I kind of mentioned once before. I like to have my people show up within mute, and that's just, I think, helpful so that if there are people already in the room, we're not blasted with sound as someone's jumping in randomly. Okay, again, I do have my chat on and private chat on, but you might not want to have private chat on when you are having classes. I have sound notification on, like I said, for when anyone joins or leaves. And I do think that that is important to have for host and co-host only, so that you are aware if you do have like a waiting room on, if you have that button turned on, you need to know somehow that someone's waiting to enter your Zoom room. I have been invited to mini meetings where I'm just sitting there for 5-10 minutes waiting for someone to let me in. Give me a reaction, thumbs up. Has that happened to you? Because it's really annoying. So I think anytime you are paying attention to that, I think that that's really, really good. Okay, and then the other thing, so I have polling turned on. I have the ability to allow for co-hosts or adding co-hosts. That's up to you. If you have, if you're team teaching, you might want to turn that on. Otherwise, I don't know if you need it. I've got that polling shown turned on. And then Zoom windows to share during screen share. So there is a potential for this being helpful in breakout rooms and giving students a task. That is a gradual release, I think, as you build up to that with teaching the kids how to do it. But then I also have on, so screen sharing. So I have that all participants can screen share, but then I also say who can start when someone else is sharing, and I have that as host only. So potentially I have the ability to override if someone's sharing a screen or not. Or if I'm sharing my screen, then that means someone else can't jump in and share their screen while I'm sharing. I do have annotations and things turned on, but again, that's something that I'm kind of bummed about because the Chromebooks don't necessarily allow for it. And then the renaming feature, this is where we did that. So if that is something when I had you rename and say what animal you like or whatever, you'd have to turn it on right here. So that's renaming. So that's midway down. I think it's in the setting basics. Okay, so those are the ones I really wanted to highlight for today. But you can obviously go through those very specifically and turn things on and off as well.
Nicole?
Yes.
Do we have any district guidance about kids sharing their screen or recording your live session with kids' faces on there?
So we have been asking, we need IT, the lawyers, as well as TNL when they come up with what our final like in-class day looks like to kind of come together. We're working on it. So as soon as we have more definitive answers from those three places, then we'll put together a guideline for everybody. So yeah, we are working on it. We're emailing and contacting people as much as possible because I'm sure all of us would really love to know how to do that. Okay, so this is one piece that we've been sharing with people kind of repeatedly, but this is how I do all of my screen sharing and slide deck presentations with people through Zoom. I think it's incredibly important because, again, when we come back and we talk about our internet and the pulling on the data, when you are sharing a screen that is in, let's do a new share. And let's do this screen. So if I'm sharing this type of a screen, what's happening is it's loading every single slide from my deck. It's loading all of the editing tools. It's also pulling, because right now I have 44 people in this document as well. This is pulling a ton of internet data and usage. However, I instead share something like this, where you guys do not see any of those editing features. It's straight in presentation mode from the beginning. And what that means is I've basically created or turned it into like a website. So what I have to do is I go into my slide deck, I go to File, I go to Publish to Web, then I leave it on the link section and I go ahead and click the Publish yellow button. And then it then drops up this stupid box. I don't know why it tells us, are you sure you want to do this? And you say, yes, okay, I do. And then it gives you this link right here. You copy and paste that, and then that's what I use. And in fact, let's see, I'm going to share back one more time. Okay. So in fact, you can kind of see down here, I make sure when I do a presentation like this, that I have all of my links ready to go. I even put this in an Outlook appointment so that I can just open up my Outlook calendar, open up that appointment, and open everything that I need for that particular presentation or class session. But this Publish to Web is the one that I end up sharing in its own mini window. So that's the one that you guys are seeing when I'm presenting most of the time. Okay, and then additionally, once you have that ready to go, like I said, I open that in its own screen. So I try to minimize as many tabs and windows as possible, and I just have that Publish to Web version open in its own tab. There's nothing else in it. And then I go to my share screen settings, and I find that one tab, that one window, and that's what I share. Now, when I am doing my audio in the beginning, when I'm doing my waiting rooms, this is the most important part. So I do use Spotify, but you could use Pandora, you could use YouTube, you know, whatever you have access to music, you could use iTunes. The most important part is these little tiny boxes down in the bottom of your share screen. And if you know you're going to be sharing a video with your students during class, you're going to click both of these buttons, share computer sound, and then optimize share for video clip. So this is going to make a tremendous difference in the sound quality that they hear on their end. And so if you've ever kind of come into any of my things, like this morning when you came in, what slide am I on? 25. Okay, so when you came in this morning, I had this screen on and I had music playing, right? You can all hear music, right? Give me a reaction, thumbs up. Okay, so all I'm doing is I have Spotify. It's hard to hear me when that's on. I have Spotify open. Slide 5, 25. So I have this one screen open. I've clicked share computer sound, and then I play my playlist. The playlist I'm using right now is called Sunny Day on Spotify. So I would suggest, and I have multiple, the reason I think Spotify the most is because I have all these playlists that I've created. So I have playlists for transitions. So when the kids hear transitions music, they know this is what we're doing, right? I have clean music that that they can use for when they're writing, right? Like mood music. I have music for specific, like pump up jams, right? Or calm studying jams or whatever. I'm using music constantly. So that would be one way to access that sound piece and make it a high quality experience for the students in the room. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about today is the ability to share your teacher iPad as a secondary device. So this would mean if you're sitting there going, how am I going to do a document camera, for example? If you have a teacher iPad, you do not need a document camera. You can use any of the whiteboard apps. There's many free whiteboard apps where you could just write straight on your teacher iPad and use it as a shared screen. Or you could take a picture of a document, a printout, and write over the top of that with your iPad. So all you're going to do is take your charging cord, right? And you're going to plug that into your iPad and plug that into your computer through the USB port.
Nicole?
Yes.
Does it need to be a special teacher iPad, or if you had access to a student iPad, would that work as well?
Oh, totally. Yeah. A student iPad would totally work. Okay, so I have plugged in my iPad to my laptop with the charging cord. And then what I'm going to do is open up my share screen, and I'm going to select iPad or iPhone via cable. So there's actually, if you notice on here, there's one that says via AirPlay. I would not use that because, again, that's going to pull data from your internet and you're going to experience lag. So by connecting it with your charging cord, you're going to experience a better, fast connection. Does that make sense? So let's go ahead and do a new share. That's what I just showed you. And now you guys are on my iPad. So I could open up an app with the Newsella or Wonderopolis article and use my stylus, right? With the kids live and highlight and annotate, right? So couldn't be more simple, especially with that charging cord. So if you have a teacher iPad, if you have a student iPad, use that charging cord connected via USB, and it's a share screen, which is awesome. So, I mean, I know in the past I've shown you these contraptions where teachers have taken their iPads or have taken their phones and done like live camera feed to what they're doing. But honestly, I would do exactly what I just showed you. And if I had like a piece of paper or something that I wanted to write over the top of, I would just take a picture of it and move that picture into like a whiteboard app. Instead of doing a live camera feed, I would do it within an app. Okay. All right. So that's everything for today.